Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. This is your captain, Randy Wright speaking, and as always, I'm joined on our state-of-the-art radio program by my first officer, Jeremy Grapenton. Folks, this will be the final boarding call, so if you please, claim your seats, fasten your seat belts, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show, while Jeremy and I go ahead and delve into the pre-flight checklist, as there really is a lot of news and information to get to before we may fully indulge you with your in-flight entertainment. Well, folks, Jeremy and I have run into a recurring question that continues to pop up throughout this 2016 primary season. It's a question that I'm sure is similar to the ones Democrats were asking themselves during the 2004 election when they had Kerry and Edwards vying for the highest office in the land. Has Donald Trump ever been consistent? We know that the two Johns that were running for the Democrats back in '04 were never consistent. Now, clearly, this is a strange question until you remember that Donaldoff has spoken out of both sides of his mouth concerning every issue that is important and has done it with a straight face. Truth be told, that doesn't bode well for the general election, does it, Jeremy?
Well, not at all. Not at all. Especially when he's held the position of being pro-life, the pro-choice, the pro-life, the pro-choice, the pro-life, and now he's back to being pro-choice again.
Right.
And made the statement that the laws regarding abortion are just fine the way they are. They don't need to be changed. But yet, he said that he would change the laws, and then he said he wouldn't change the laws. Then he would, then he wouldn't, and then he would. Now he won't again, and he's never going to change the laws if he's president. And that's a big if.
Yeah. It's certainly a big if, given the way that he has been attacking his fellow Republicans with far more zeal than he's ever attacked the Democrats. It almost raises the question of whether he is in it just to divide the voters, because if you go after your fellow Republicans with so much zeal, it makes you wonder, why would you even need Democrats when you basically have a Democrat running as a Republican, trashing our own candidates, and basically offering no real platform which is beneficial to the nation as a whole? It's highly irregular, it's disconcerting, and I think it's destructive. It's harmful to the party as a whole, and I think that the way that he has fit into all of these typical sorts of left-wing messages, it just is not beneficial to anyone who matters or to the ultimate wielders of sovereignty in this country at all.
It's almost like he's purposely dividing this. See, this is an issue that he's created.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I believe it's all part of the Sabian design, to where people they're abandoning their principles.
Yeah.
They're giving up their liberties for a sense of security. Now, folks will want to say that, well, with the TSA, giving up your liberties of being searched and this and that, unlawful searches, just so you can feel safe on a plane, that's what that applies to. No, there was a deeper meaning than what Benjamin Franklin had in store when he was asked by, I can't remember her name, it escapes me at the moment, but she asked him, she says, Mr. Franklin, what have you given us? He says, a republic if you can keep it. That entitles everything that is embodied with our system of governance, our duties as the sovereign wielders of authority. He also said those that are willing to sacrifice their liberties for any level or modicum of safety deserve neither and will lose both. Folks, that means that if you're willing to sacrifice your principles because you feel safe in following somebody and wanting to elect somebody because of the message they put out there, you're sacrificing your liberties for that safety. Basically, simply put, Trump created a situation of this blistering, fiery anger that everybody is wanting to talk about. The politicians lied to us. The politicians did this. The politicians said that. And he wanted to create all this issue with all the politicians supposedly being lumped in as a general sum. That's not the case. He created that.
Right.
So people are embracing that and saying that, dealing with that, they want to say Ted Cruz is part of it. Well, he's not part of it. So, because he's only been a senator for 4 years. So that would be like saying, well, all politicians are liars. It's like saying, well, all Germans were Nazis, which simply wasn't the case. So, with people latching onto that and embracing that, they feel safe and secure in holding that belief. They're willing to trade their own principles, i.e., Second Amendment rights, all constitutional rights, their stance on abortion, because Trump supports abortion wholeheartedly, regardless of what he says. He's always supported it.
And we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail as we go on as well, because he really has assumed so many positions with abortion, it's nigh impossible to really keep track of everything that he has said. And that's part of the problem with him. It's that he's an untrustworthy candidate, because as far as I can tell, not once during this entire 2016 presidential election cycle has the New York billionaire, businessman, real estate tycoon, and all-around vulgarian ever once taken a solid, consistent position. Not once.
No, and with him doing that, it's creating the balkanization within not only the party, but also the voters themselves. And that, you spoke before about driving a wedge in between the GOP and the Republican Party.
Right.
That wedge not only pierced the party, but it splintered it, and then the wedge continues to drive even deeper into the whole heart of what any political party is, and that's the electorate, the voting base. It is the popular sovereigns casting their vote. He has splintered we the people. He has divided us. I mean, what he has done is far worse than what Abraham Lincoln has ever done in regards to utilizing the Civil War to create his tyranny, or what Grant has done, or before Lincoln, I can't Buchanan.
Or also even Andrew Jackson. Also Andrew Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see, because when you think about it, it's only going to get worse, especially when you recall that Donald has lost in 12 head-to-head polls against the presumptive Democrat nominee, Hillary Clinton. Under any other candidate, Hillary loses. Yet as time goes on, Donald performs worse and worse against either Hillary or Vermont Senator Nerdface Boing Sanders. So let's take, for instance, the stance on abortion, as you were already bringing up, Jeremy. Trump has assumed at least 3 separate positions on abortion in a span of 3 hours. At least that's what CNN said in an article that it put out a couple of days ago. Folks, that's enough to make my head spin. It's enough to make my head spin, because this is something that he's had years and years to make a decision on, and it just seems that as soon as he decided to officially throw his hat in the ring last summer, that is when he magically decided to change his mind and become pro-life. Because I believe it was on a Meet the Press interview back in 1999 with the late Tim Russert that he said that he was pro-choice in every sense of the word, even though he abhorred personally the practice of abortion. It's an inconsistent position, but that's par for the course with Donald.
Well, it's a hypocritical position is what it is. And what that does, when you have an inconsistent, hypocritical position, all that leads to, the roads going down that path, it only leads to one thing. You're a liar. It tells me that he doesn't even know what he believes. I don't think he believes anything other than his own existence. And that's the problem. Trump doesn't care about anything but Trump, period. He's proven it time and time again. He's had 70 years on this earth. Now, granted, we'll take, I don't know, let's take 15 years off of that.
Okay, so he's had at least 50 plus years.
Right, so let's say from the time at the age of 15 up until now, he should have been able to form a logical, rational, coherent thought regarding abortion, regarding constitutional rights, regarding morals, ethics, so on and so forth. But as we discussed on past episodes, we just have to look at his upbringing. Look at his grandfather, look at Frederick Trump.
Yeah.
And then his father. Look at the insane activities that they were involved in.
Which included prostitution and running brothels back during the Klondike Gold Rush, and then some rather questionable dealings with his father, where he even had received threats of lawsuits from the Justice Department for housing discrimination. Apparently, he didn't want blacks living in his buildings and therefore made quite a stink about the selection of who could live in it. And apparently that was settled outside of court. And of course, that means that the records, for the most part, were not made public. But it's a definite pattern of behavior that we see with respect to the Trump empire. It's something that is dubious in nature, it's questionable, and is that something that we would even want to let near the reins of political power in this representative republic of ours?
Well, and that's the thing. That's what makes me question or bring up the point of this wedge driving right into the heart of any political party, specifically the Republican Party. Now, Randy, you and I both have shed our allegiance to any party in recent years due to instances such as candidates running that did not represent the people in their best interest or the best interest of this country.
Right.
So we refuse to align ourselves with those individuals. Trump has taken that to the umpteenth degree further than what John McCain or Mitt Romney or Lindsey Graham or any of the other failed candidates even thought about doing. And he uses this, he creates this bandwagon that he's the one driving it, that sends a message to people, well, I'm not like them. Right. I'm not a politician. I'm the outsider. And all the politicians have done nothing but lie to you. And again, that's that dangerous generalization of all politicians. He looks at,
and of course, it's also not true. It's not true. It's a lie to say that he's not a politician, because if you recall, he wrote that book back in 2000 where he was going to talk about his platform as a Reform Party candidate. And he has certainly mullied over the idea of running for president before. In fact, he even had a campaign. It just didn't go anywhere. And the whole idea that he's greased the palms of politicians for as long as he has been in active within his profession, it speaks volumes. That means that he is the one that has been allowing or funding these sorts of various plots and schemes that his followers are so upset about. And he has basically allowed these people to be bribed or put in his pocket so that he could go about and conduct rather seedy business deals that is fraudulent in nature, truly questionable in nature, and is not something that would speak greatly of his character and fitness to hold the highest office in the land. And yet, despite whatever you attempt to tell the Trump supporters, they claim it is either a lie or some grand conspiracy against the ducking dawn. But that's the problem. Why is it that when you notice in all of the complaints that have been brought up against him, whether it be Trump University or whether it be the Polish Brigade that sued him 30 plus years ago over the demolition of the Bawick building that stood on the site where Trump Towers is now, or whatever other lawsuit it is, it's always Donald Trump in the middle of it. He is the common denominator, yet it's everyone else that's against him. It's everyone else that's lying or telling an untruth or is somehow wrong. You know, that is a type of pattern of behavior that we have seen exhibited by the current occupier of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and I think we're all a bit sick and tired of it. Then today we see that the Marshall Report puts out some unsubstantiated, uncorroborated story, a bit like the National Enquirer, saying that Ted Cruz's personal number was in the D.C. Madam's little black book, except that when I looked at the evidence, it didn't show any signs of the number. It just showed the state of Texas. In other words, that could be any Texas number anywhere. And so to say that that is just Ted Cruz's, well, without more concrete evidence, I can't say anything more to that, but I don't believe it. I just don't.
Well, how do we know that phone number is not Rob Paul's?
Right.
How do we know that phone number isn't Alex Jones's?
Right.
See, we don't. And there's even a deeper underlying problem with all of this. With all the stuff of Trump saying, I'm a winner, I don't lose, I've never settled. Well, and it's all of these lies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continuity of lies. That's all it is. And regarding its supporters, there even so much is coming out now because they're so entrenched in this. And in order for them to not look like the fools that they really are, it reminds me of that old adage, it's better to be perceived as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Mm-hmm.
These fools aren't even using the mantra, well, those are lies you're telling about Trump, or that's a conspiracy theory. Now, they're actually acknowledging those facts about him and saying, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. So they're saying, yeah, well, we know all this about Donald Trump. You know,
so in other words, they're selling their soul. They're selling their soul. They have no principles, and they're okay with him not having any principles.
Exactly, which goes right back to my initial point at the onset of this show, is regarding giving up your liberties for safety. When you are willing to sell your soul and are willing to abandon your principles in order for you to be able to maintain a lie that you've been fed. And if you repeat it, guess what? If you take a lie that somebody said and you repeat it, that makes you a liar just as much as the person who initially said it. Mm-hmm. So this is them abandoning their principles, selling their soul so that they can feel safe and secure in perpetuating this lie.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, if that is not the work of Satan himself, I don't know what is. And you have to remember, the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he did not exist. This is what Donald Trump has done with his supporters. He has convinced them that he is none of those things, but at the same time, he's come out and said that in not so many words, he has admitted to all of these things, and he's spun it in such a way to where people want to create this idea, this utopian idea, and this fallacy that, oh, these are lies against Trump, or that it's just conspiracy theory. He has crafted all of this in his little cloth entertainment for them. It's entertainment for Trump. And that has reduced our country down to nothing but Pan Am exercises or Brighton circuses. It's a travesty. It really is.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed about it.
Right.
I'm absolutely appalled and embarrassed.
And let's take another step about what's embarrassing about it. Let's look at his change on the position of those who skip debates. There's another curious area where Donald has changed his tune, and that's on this issue of debates. Going back to an interview in 2012 with Megyn Kelly, you know, he liked her before he didn't like her. Donnie claimed that it was cowardly to skip a debate. Now, however, when that could prove to place him at a disadvantage, he's all about running from debates. He's already skipped 2 this primary season, causing 1 to be canceled. Folks, whether you think there have been too many debates or not, it is a great disservice to the American people to skip out on these debates. The purpose of the debates is to give us a glimpse into the policy differences between the candidates. Yet, that's a problem for Donald. He doesn't seem to understand policy. Recall that he said that he would appoint Supreme Court justices who would investigate Hillary's email scandal. Seriously, folks, he really believes that Supreme Court justices carry out investigative operations. Donnie needs a refresher course here on the separate but equally important systems. Law enforcement who investigate crimes and the attorneys who prosecute the offenders. You know, it's kind of like the line right out of Law and Order, that now canceled television program. This is Civics 101. Yet I'm assuming that Donnie missed this class when he was in Military Academy for Juvenile Delinquents.
Yeah, and not only does it disrupt the whole flow of our electoral process, it deprives the citizens. And see, little Donnie boy has made snide remarks about candidates abandoning their constituents in Nevada. He said all the candidates had woke up, gave a couple speeches and left. I'm the only one here. I'm the only one left in the state. You all might as well vote for me.
Yet Ted Cruz was in the state at that time, still.
Yes. And was still in that state later on, for a few more hours at least.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is all playing right to the fact that it's doublespeak. When you create a situation like with the debates, when you skip the debates after saying, you know, it's wrong, it's not right to skip debates. Nobody should.
It's cowardly to do so. Yeah.
Right. And then you skip the debates. What you're doing is none of the other candidates are abandoning their constituents. You are abandoning all constituents, all potential voters. Because if he wants to secure the nomination, there are many, many people that do not support him now, but would vote for him if he was the nominee because of the whole lesser of 2 evils thing. Now, what he's doing is he is abandoning all voters by doing this, because he is depriving them, as like you said, Randy, of the knowledge and the input in order to make a just determination.
Well, yeah, it's an insult to all of us who want to know exactly what's going on. And basically what he's saying is that he doesn't care enough about the American people to put them above himself. But if you stop and think about who is the impetus of sovereignty in this country, who are the ultimate wielders of sovereignty, it's not Donald J. Trump. It's not even Ted Cruz. It's not any of the candidates or any of the officers in government. It is we, the people. That is the way that our founding fathers designed this country back at its inception over 230 years ago, and we have gotten away from it because of the callous and reckless beliefs of people like Donald Trump. If he were, by some cruel twist of fate, to somehow get elected, I don't think that he would be a good president. In fact, it would, and something that we'll get to a little bit later in the show, he doesn't even want to be president. This is all part of an ego trip for him.
Yeah, And again, let's examine what he has to lose if he is elected president by some evil cruel twist of fate.
Mm-hmm.
As president, you have to divest your holdings. You cannot draw any earnings from your businesses. George Herbert Walker Bush had to do it with the oil companies that he owned. George W. Bush had to do it with Texas Rangers, and so on and so forth. He is no different. He actually stands to lose more about what he cares about, which is money,
mm-hmm.
and his empire and his legacy, if he is president.
Yep.
And people say, "Oh, no, his kids are going to run his corporation for him." Really? See, because he claims to be such a great businessman. You know what? I'm a businessman. And if I set up a business and it reaches the echelon of which Donald Trump is,
mm-hmm.
I would not have my kids take over that company for me and run the show and me be on a sabbatical running a country. It's not going to happen. You know why? Because, A, I may love my kids. I may have all the trust in the world for them, but I don't have that much trust. And here's the problem. Donald Trump does not have any trust. He doesn't even trust himself.
Right. But he does have his kids in there as executive vice presidents, and he could pass it down to them like the way that his grandmother did. But again, I think that he is such an obsessive compulsive type of personality that he wouldn't be able to do it. He would want to continue to micromanage it. And that just shows that his interests would be divided, when the whole reason that they have you divest all of this stuff is so that you are singularly focused on serving the people, because that becomes your sole occupation. And it's not just serving the people, you're also representing the people. And that has to take paramount importance, because it means that you are working for something that is greater than you yourself, something greater than the sum of its parts, which is representing the true ultimate wielders of sovereignty in this great representative republic of ours. And again, I don't think that's something that Donald can do. I don't think he has the maturity. I think he lacks the maturity and the self-control to be both a statesman and a representative for the wielders of sovereignty in America.
Well, and you're absolutely right on that. And I'm going to add one more point to it. Donald claiming, again, to be such a businessman. Let's look at this from a business aspect. Business is all about what?
Money.
Risk and reward.
And money.
Risk and reward.
Yeah.
And money. Okay, the money is a byproduct from engaging in risk and reward.
Right.
There is too much of a risk in Donald Trump's eye for him to not be able to micromanage those things. And at that point, it becomes too much of a risk. He's not going to take it. And he even said it himself. If I walk into a deal and it looks like it's going to be too much of a risk, I'll do whatever I can, and then I'll leave without losing anything. He's not going to be able to do that being president and micromanaging his businesses, which, as you stated, it would be impossible for him to do, because he cannot let go of that kind of control. He is a sycophant. He is a narcissist, and he has to have total control. Period.
Right.
And it's exhibited of his rally. Look at the support that he has from these people. He controls them. He controls their every waking moment. Everything that they do, they have altered and modified their lifestyles in order to show support for him. That means that he controls them. He lives in their head rent free.
Right.
They don't do anything in their lives anymore that is not a reflection of supporting Donald Trump.
Right.
Folks, that's what's called being a lemming. It's a drone. You become mindless when you do that. You are a robot, which means if Donald Trump can do that, guess what? Since Randy and I understand the true inner workings of propaganda much better than Donald Trump ever thought he could do, guess what? That means that we'll be able to take control of you. We can control you to get you to do what we wanted you to do. Would we do that?
No.
You know why? Because we have a moral compass and an ethical barometer that functions.
Mm-hmm.
Because we would not utilize our gifts, we would not utilize our intellect to infringe upon the people to put them in a compromising situation to where they're going to vacate their principles, which means they're going to give up their liberties for some modicum of false faith.
Mm-hmm. Right, and it comes down to an importance of character, and it's going back to the debate issue. It tells me that Donald's unwillingness to go to the debate and to argue an issue toe-to-toe with Texas Senator Ted Cruz, it shows that he doesn't have the knowledge necessary, and he's certainly not confident enough to engage in that type of a display. And what that comes down to is that in prior debates, Donnie was able to hide his apparent lack of knowledge behind the vast number of candidates present on the stage. On top of this, he could also hide away his shortcomings behind attacking either the press or one of his rivals. Yet, throughout it all, he didn't once attack on substance. It was either Lion Ted this or Little Marco that. It's childish at best, and the Trumpmeister realized this would alienate a great number of voters. It's like a friend of mine told me the other night. People are getting sick and tired of the childish antics of Donald. Donald represents everything that is wrong with politics, yet his followers proclaim that he's not a politician, and that's what draws them to him.
You know what else this reminds me of? You go to a family reunion. You got all the cousins, all the little kids, all the cousins and brothers and sisters, and there's always one. There's always one heathenistic, petulant little child that likes to pick at each individual person, poke and prod, and get everybody worked up to where everybody's fighting amongst themselves. And then they sit back and they bask in the little mayhem glory that they've created.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what he's doing. He is that narcissistic, heathenistic, little petulant child.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he is. That's all he is. In fact, I think Anderson Cooper referred to him as being a 5-year-old.
Yes, he did.
He doesn't get his way, so he throws a fit. He throws a Trumper tantrum. And here's another aspect regarding the field of candidates. Think of it as if you're on a battlefield, and I like using battlefield analogy.
Mm.
Think of it as if you're on a battlefield in a machine gun nest. You know how they took sandbags and they would build up a barrier,
mm-hmm.
and that way it would deflect or distort and slow down some of the the bullets coming out. Well, that's what Donald Trump is. He utilized all the other candidates as a sandbag barrier. And now when the sandbags are shot up enough, they lose their volume of sand.
Mm-hmm.
They go away, they become non-existent anymore in that particular arena. Well, there's only 2 sandbags left, and I'm not referring to them in a derogatory way.
Right.
But you have 2 individuals left. There is not enough cover for Trump to avoid the onslaught of fire.
Mm.
There's not enough for him to hide behind anymore. So he's kind of cowering behind this one little sandbag. John Kasich, who's not really worth more in the political arena than much of a sandbag. In fact, I think I'd vote for a sandbag over him any day. But how long before that goes away to where he has to face Ted Cruz toe-to-toe in a debate? He's not going to be able to handle it. He's going to be exhausted from spending all this time trying to duck and cover and dodge bullets to where he's not going to be able to focus. He doesn't have the intellectual capacity to do so. In fact, I'm certain that regarding these issues, foreign policy, abortion, Constitution, pretty much everything that is core issues regarding the people, Donald Trump's intellectual capacity is equivalent to the ovulation cycle of a gnat.
And, well, gnats don't have ovulation cycles, which means he has no knowledge whatsoever. And, you know, going back to the point where the Trump supporters said that part of the reason that they're drawn to the New York Bulgarian is that he's not a politician. Well, part of the problem with that is, as we've mentioned already, that he tried to run for president before on the Reform Party ticket, and that he had written out a book spelling out his plan. If that's not a politician, I don't know what is. Moreover, he greased the palms of politicians for years, enabling the sort of corruption that his followers are apparently so angry about. It seems that this campaign is the post-truth campaign, and I think that that's a bit of a troubling development for American polity. And what I mean when I say American polity is the system of American politics. Yes, politics is an integral part of how our representative republic works. It's based on a political system to ensure that we don't have a despotism. Now, what does a despotism mean? That means the absolute control of a nation and its proper political functions. So if you look at, say, the Tudor era in England, the despots would be either Henry VII, Henry VIII, Mary Tudor, or Elizabeth I. The king controlled absolute power. They took more power away from the nobility and from the representative body, that being the fledgling parliament, and just amassed it in the kings themselves. And this was taken to a greater extent with the Stuart line, the Scottish kings that took over after the death of Elizabeth I, to where he wrote of the divine right of kings, where sovereignty was handed to the king and the king alone by none other than God, meaning that the king only answered to God. Well, that's, I think, the type of mindset that we're getting from Donald Trump, except that he said that he's never even asked God for forgiveness because he's never done anything wrong or anything that would warrant the need for forgiveness. So he's even more conceited than the monarchs of a despotic England back in the transition period between the medieval periods of history and the modern.
And that goes even deeper, too, because with behaving that way and doing that such thing, he is violating the absolute natural law tenets of which our country was founded on.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, it's just, this is what our founding fathers warned us about, especially George Washington,
mm-hmm.
when he talked about, not allowing, the parties to become fractured.
Right, that would be his farewell address.
Yes, and that's what despotism does. It fractures, splinters everything to where everything is split so thin that every single splinter or faction, little fractured part, has no choice but to rely solely on the despot individually.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, ultimately, eventually, they all get back together and they regroup and they reform back into a whole. And they're no longer fractured, they're no longer separated.
Right.
And I don't want to see that happen with this country. It's already happened before,
mm-hmm.
with the Civil War. It's happened with, it even happened to a very small degree, not to the magnitude, but it's starting to with our the Constitutional Convention
mm-hmm.
in 1787. We had Patrick Henry, John Jay,
George Mason,
mm-hmm. and about 12 other individuals get up and leave. They just got up and left because
they wanted the Bill of Rights to be included into the Constitution,
yeah.
And that's your first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution, folks. And you can see why they would want it. particularly the way that this federal government has gone out over the succeeding centuries and just ignored the Constitution, incessantly worked to whittle down the rights and protections that the American people have, to the point that they're making a joke of it. They're making a complete mockery of the system that we have. And we have to be proactive in the maintenance and safeguarding of our fundamental and unalienable rights that were endowed to us by our Creator, that nature's God, that of nature's God, which means, again, that no earthly authority or legitimate earthly authority could take that right away from you without being under a process of due process, meaning that you be adjudicated in front of a jury of your peers and found to have violated the fundamental and unalienable rights of a fellow sovereign citizen, which is not the way that it's working with a lot of the things that are being proposed. Like when Trump came out and said that we should punish women who seek to have an abortion. We'll get into that a little bit deeper. That it walks a very dangerous line, especially from a public relations standpoint, that is going to hurt the conservative image, because this is going to play into the two-dimensional caricatures that the frothing at the mouth left has drawn of the right, and he seems to fulfill each and every one of those straw men caricatures that the left has created.
Sure. And, speaking of one of those, the war on women.
Mm-hmm.
The war on women. See, I've had several conversations with several different individuals, all of which will remain nameless, but they know who they are if they're listening to the show, that they've said that, well, Donald Trump can beat Hillary in the debates. He can beat her and he can become president. I have repeatedly told them that they're wrong, and here's why. See, Hillary doesn't even have to bring up any of the core issues. She doesn't have to bring up foreign policy. She doesn't even have to talk about anything on the Constitution. And it's not like she would anyways, because she despises it just as much as Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Various other different key issues, gay marriage, so on and so forth, should focus on the insignificant issues that everybody is trying to bolster up as what is wrong with this country. Well, we need to fix the economy. The economy doesn't matter. The economy means absolutely nothing. Zero in the grand scheme of things, because you can have the best economy in the world, and if you do not have a free and sovereign people, that economy will falter and soon go by the wayside and become non-existent. History has proven that. History has absolutely proven that. But instead, she'll bring up the war on women. And she won't have to have any facts. Well, any relative facts anyways, because all she has to do is talk about, and she can be the one to fire the first shot. Let's talk about infidelity. My husband and former president, Bill Clinton, was a philanderer. He had sex with this person and this person, so on and so forth, whatever the case is. And she'll come right out in a minute, because statute of limitations and all this other stuff, it ain't going to matter. The American people aren't going to care, because we already know the truth. She's just going to speak the truth on it, and then she's going to add one little caveat. But I stood by his side, and we remained married throughout that whole process. Whereas Donald Trump has been married 3 times. Cheated on his first wife with his second wife, and his second wife with his current wife.
Yep. And not only that, he went on to the Howard Stern radio program to brag about his tryst, claiming that it was his way to be like a brave soldier in Vietnam with all of the sexually transmitted diseases. It's something that he'd have to be afraid of, and it was great for him because he was brave and blah, blah, blah. It's not the sort of thing that you would want from a principled leader, but principled and Donald Trump, I don't think, are two things that should be strung together in the same sentence.
No. And you know what? That brings up another issue that she won't even have to. It's to me, it's an important issue because it revolves around the military.
Mm.
But it's a smaller part of the bigger issue with the military.
Mm.
Stolen valor. Now, Trump is going, when she paints him as an individual who is actively engaged in stolen valor by comparing himself to a Vietnam soldier in his little sexcapade. Vietnam-era veterans, in fact, all veterans, regardless of what era they're from, and those that are currently serving in the military, and even those that are aspiring to serve in the military, they're going to be offended by that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be offended. They're going to be deeply insulted by Trump, and she's going to paint that picture. And this is the other thing that is kind of a double whammy with the war on women and then the facade of the stolen valor that Hillary will paint the picture of. This is the linchpin between those two things.
Mm.
Hillary is a good debater.
Yeah.
Why? Because she's had practice. She is a former attorney.
Right.
All attorneys are excellent debaters. That is part of their job. That is their training. That is the core essence of their being as far as performance goes. Putting on the show. Their job is to paint a picture of what happened. She is very good at that.
Yeah, and in a way of advocating a certain position. You know, that's why they call us advocates. It's because we go out and we advocate for our client's position. And we do that in a way that is most beneficial to the client. And so in the case of Hillary running for president, she's going to advocate in the light that's best for her. And let's face it, folks, the way that Donald acts, he is just giving her carte blanche to run forward with such an image, and he's not going to be able to respond because he's just going to come back with personal ad hominem attacks, and that's not going to play over well with the general electorate, not at all. And that's part of the problem with him, is that he has no substance, absolutely no substance, and that is just going to haunt him time and again as we get further and further along this 2016 presidential election cycle.
Sure. And here's one more interesting point of fact. And I've said this before. There's a distinct difference between Hillary and Donald Trump. And no, the difference isn't what you think. What y'all might be thinking is Hillary's pantsuits are not made in Mexico or China. That's not secular. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, they're made in Italy.
The key difference between Hillary and Trump is she is a patient individual. He is not. He is, brash, bold, right out of the gate, fire the first shot, do whatever he can do whatever he has to do. Okay? She will sit back and she will wait. And it's just like I told individuals back in 2009 when she was nominated to be Secretary of State. She vacated her position as New York State Senator so that she could set herself up to run for president at a later time. And people were telling me, "Oh, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. She's got too much baggage. She's involved in too much stuff. She'll never do it. People aren't going to vote for a woman." If given the opportunity or presented with the choices of Donald Trump versus Hillary, I'm going to tell everybody right now, 74%,
75%,
of the voting pop, 75%
yeah,
of the registered voting female population are diametrically opposed and actually sickened by Donald Trump. They find him repulsive. Where do you think that 75% of the vote is going to go? Hillary Clinton.
Unfortunately.
Which means he'll only pick up 25% of the voting base.
Yeah.
On the females. At most. Now, with the female population outnumbering the male population, anywhere between 2 to 3 females per 1 male. That means there's more women voters than there are men.
Hmm.
And men are going to take the stance against Donald Trump that women have taken against Hillary, or in fact, what women have taken against other women. And it's a fact. Women don't trust other women. That's a fact. Ask any woman, they'll tell you. And for our female listeners, ask yourself, do you trust other women? No. Why? Because it is in your natural genetic makeup to not trust other women, because you are the nurturer and you are the protector at home over your children. That's where that stems from. Men are going to distance themselves from Donald Trump because, A, with the military and him making that comparison, all was taken out of context. You still said it.
Mm-hmm.
You still said it. You should have thought before you spoke, but you wouldn't be able to do that because you don't have the patience to do it. And that's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
She's more patient than he is. And she will jump, and you know what's going to happen? She is going to come right out of the gate, firing the first shot because he's become complacent with his position of not being patient. And she's going to use that against him. She's going to come out of the gate firing the first shots. It's going to throw him off kilter. And because he has no substance, no intellect, and no patience, he's not going to do anything but sit there and let himself.
Yeah. And then we see that social media has added to the fray. I saw a meme post on a social media site today by a mutual acquaintance of ours, Jeremy. The meme stated that never in the history of America has a political party attacked and strategized, and then I had to add ED because they didn't put it in past tense, against one of its, and it included an incorrect apostrophe there, so one of it is what that would read as anyway, own. It's shameful. Our mutual acquaintance added, and I'm paraphrasing to protect innocent minds, or lack thereof, disgusting, mean, immoral, and despicable. If the party hurts him, there'll be hell to pay. Let me translate that, folks. Wah! If Trump no get Trump way, we throw Trumper tantrum. Seriously, folks, aren't we better than this as a nation and as a people? We are facing one of the most dangerous election cycles in the history of our nation, and they're worried about protecting a candidate who attacks his fellow Republicans with much greater zeal than he's ever once gone after the Democrats. And perhaps this is because he's either been a Democrat or a Reform Party member for the vast majority of his adult life. Perhaps what the meme should have said was, never before in the history of America has a socialist duped conservatives on such a large scale, convincing them that he's some sort of infallible messiah.
Yeah, and you know, again, with these individuals, you know, posting stuff like this, they bought right into the whole mantra of, you know, you're lying about Trump, you know, Ted Cruz is the one that's a liar, you know, lying Ted, blah, 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 all of this nonsense. But yet, not a single one of them can show any valid proof or instance or circumstance where Ted Cruz, when he was elected to the Senate 4 years ago, 4 years, he's only been a senator for 4 years, in not one instance has he gone against what he said he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there may be some stuff that has not come to fruition yet, but it doesn't mean that he is not going to do that. You can't hold that up as a litmus test. You have to look at what he said he was going to do and what he has accomplished. That's what you have to do. If he said he was going to stand up against Obamacare, well, guess what? He did. If going to stand up against the illegal aliens coming into the country and immigration reform and so on and so forth. The Gang of Eight. He did.
Yeah, in fact, when he was there fighting the Gang of Eight, that's when Donald Trump was out funding and providing campaign contributions for the 8 members of the Gang of Eight. That's the sort of madness that we see repeat itself time and again. And when these people will sit there and say that Donald Trump is not a politician, well, I'm sorry, that proves right there that he is being a politician and that he is trying to control the way and direction of the political message. If you step back and recall what he said back in 2012, even after he endorsed Mitt Romney, he said that Mitt Romney's self-deportation message was too mean-spirited, that it wasn't right. And when he spoke at CPAC in 2013, he once again wholeheartedly embraced the notion of amnesty. Now, that is quintessentially, diametrically opposed to the message that he is espousing now.
Yes. And again, this points right back to him being consistently inconsistent. And the question that was brought up at the beginning of the show, has Donald Trump ever been consistent? Well, I think we could say in one aspect, yes.
Yeah.
He's been consistently inconsistent about everything that he has done. So, a lot of people say, well, why even ask that question if you know the answer? Well, we know the answer. We know all of his inconsistency. We know all of his lies. We know his chicanery. We know the sleight of hand things that he's done, the veils that he has pulled over people's eyes, and the curtains he's dropped in front of them while parking, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. We know these things, but we bring them to you. This is what we do. This is our obligation.
Yeah.
We dig on this stuff. We do the research. We get the information and the facts. And again, don't take it for what we just say. Don't take it for our words on it. We give you this information so that you can look it up yourself. So you can verify it.
Right.
And when you verify it, you will find out that we're not off the mark. We're pretty much spot on. And maybe a couple of small, tedious discrepancies, but hey, we're not perfect. If we were, we wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't even be here.
Right. And
this is our way of bringing the empowerment to you all.
Right. And then now back to the abortion and attacking women issue. One of the worst things about Trump is that he fulfills the stupid and false claims that the Republicans are engaged in a phony war on women. Now, the pro-life movement is in a bit of a tizzy over statements made by Trump where he said that a woman who seeks an abortion should be punished. Some of the pro-lifers believe that because it's murder, that they should be punished, they being the women who seek the abortion. Yet I think the problem here is the guilty mind is not necessarily, present. Remember, a crime needs actus reus, the guilty act, and mens rea, the guilty mind, occurring within a reasonable time frame. The idea is to save lives, not to make these distraught women think we are barbarians out to punish them for making a mistake that they were told all of their lives was perfectly legal. So there would, at the very least, need to be a transition or a transitionary period here to allow there to be a type of punitive system. But again, I think that the approach is a bit off. And then even Trump has walked this back now, once again, claiming that he wouldn't change the abortion laws in this country. Of course, there's a problem with this. Trump is running for president, folks, not Congress or the Senate. Therefore, he could never make law to begin with. It's funny, a friend of mine said we shouldn't worry and still vote for him should he get the nomination by some cruel twist of fate, because he can't make law. Yet the problem is he's vowed to continue the extra-constitutional use of executive orders to get his way, much like Barack Hussein Obama has throughout these disastrous 2 terms that we have suffered under. And we've seen the ill effects of what that regime has done to this country. The way that it has placed a poison pill in the midst of the Constitution, and they are getting ready to ignite the Constitution, and they're dancing on the grave of the notion of popular sovereignty. Folks, we cannot afford to put another narcissistic, egomaniacal lunatic into the highest office of the land, because it is just going to be a continuation of the madness that is already haunting and looming over 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, and regarding the abortion laws, I did some research today. In fact, I was actually going to write a blog post for our blog at Wright Flyer, Radio Aviation at blogspot.com, regarding abortion and abortion laws. And I was going to center it around Lacey's law. I read Lacey's law. That law is actually contradictory in and of itself. Because in the terms of individuals that say abortion is murder, which it is, I hold that belief myself, but there's provisions within that law that prevent the prosecution of individuals who commit abortions. They cannot be prosecuted under Lacey's law. So you have organizations like Planned Parenthood. Well, Planned Parenthood doesn't do abortions. Yes, they do. Anybody that says otherwise knows nothing about Planned Parenthood. They absolutely perform abortions. In fact, they've actually been caught admitting to performing abortions. Remember all these baby parts for sale fiasco?
Yep.
Yeah. Where do you think they get the baby parts from? Right in their own clinics. But this law is contradictory of itself, because on one hand, an individual who intentionally kills or deprives an unborn child of their life, kills them while they are in utero, meaning in the womb, which the law recognizes that if there's a child in the womb, they are a living individual. Therefore, automatically, if they are a human being, which, if, the Twilight Zone had its way, it would be some kind of pod person, but they are a human being. They are a Homo sapien, as the law states. Therefore, automatically, they are afforded those rights, so the constitutional protection, because they are a living human being. Because they reside in the womb of the mother, who happens to be a citizen of the United States. The rights under the Constitution are endowed to them. Period. But take the word intentionally. See, what Lacey's law came about was with Scott Lacey Peterson. Scott Peterson was charged with double homicide, double murder, for killing his wife and unborn child. Okay? Now, here's the fact. If an abortion doctor, an abortionist, performs an abortion, isn't he doing the same thing that essentially Scott Peterson was charged with? Now, why is it that Scott Peterson was charged with double murder for intentionally killing his unborn child, but yet the abortion doctor is prohibited from being prosecuted? Folks, that violates the Constitution, equal protection under the law. Therefore, Lacey's law is actually an invalid law.
Right.
Because it is contrary to the Constitution. Now, Donald Trump, again, this is the point, he doesn't want to change the abortion law. Really? So you're in favor of laws that violate the Constitution.
Of course he is. He always has been. He's always been this aspect of going against the Constitution. It's because he doesn't know and understand the Constitution. It's just incredible what you see with respect to him. And you know where else you see that he doesn't care about the law or common decency? The slander against Cruz's wife. We have seen that play out time and again, and it is a shameful, despicable episode that has just taken root in this country. And, you know, another mutual friend of ours had some smarmy remark about the incident of Trump attacking Cruz's wife. He was making light of the media attacking Trump for his truly vile and disgusting behavior. Like our other mutual acquaintance, he was whining, saying everybody is attacking poor little Trump. Here's the problem. Trump was the first one to bring this campaign season down into the gutter. He is perfectly capable, willing, and able to fling mud. Yet, when someone is brave enough to retaliate and rebuff him, then he throws a fit and his followers mimic him. It's like it's some sort of vast collective mind meld or something. It reminds me of what CNN's Anderson Cooper said to Trump's face, that he's a 5-year-old. He does act like a small child. Look at his lack of impulse control. Sure, we expect 5-year-olds to lack impulse control, but folks, Trump is 70 years old and he still acts like he's 5. He's consistently inconsistent, and all problems and gaffes are everyone else's fault. It's the same nonsense we've suffered under throughout the 2 disastrous terms of the Barack Hussein Obama regime. Why would we want to replace, again, one narcissistic lunatic with another narcissistic lunatic? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, I have an analogy for that as well. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Look at our population of individuals that are of the entitlement mentality.
Mm-hmm.
The folks that are sitting on welfare or various other government handouts that do not want to be productive in life. They think everything is owed to them. They're going to do whatever it takes to get their piece of the pie, but they don't want to put forth any meaningful effort in order to take any responsibility for themselves.
Mm.
That's the low end of the spectrum. On the high end of the spectrum, we have Donald Trump, who's a fluent nature. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's used to getting what he wants. He wants to go into a room and say, I want this, and people give it to him. He's said that he's going to tell people what to do, and they're going to do it, so on and so forth. When that becomes threatened on his end, or when the impoverished entitlements become threatened on the low end, it's the same result.
Hmm.
They behave in the same fashion. They're petulant little children who develop into heathens, throw fits, and they're incorrigible. They cannot be taught because they don't want to be taught. Donald Trump is set in his ways, just like the ne'er-do-wells of society, those that are leeching off of the government and the taxpayers, ultimately, who have no modicum of respect for themselves, therefore they have no respect for anything or anybody, just like Trump. I believe that Trump doesn't even respect himself. He doesn't even know what respect is. He wants to talk about loyalty. Loyalty is somewhat hand in hand with respect. Trump wants to talk about, I have loyal followers. No, you have a bunch of lemmings, is what you have. You have a bunch of mindless robots because you created them. And your sick and twisted view of what loyalty is, I'm sorry, I want no part of it. I will never have any part of it. Why? Because I'm capable of thinking for myself. I was raised in such a fashion to where, A, my word is my bond. My word means everything. If I do not stick to my word, then that means that I have nothing. Because ultimately, ultimately will come back to haunt me, and everything that I try to accomplish or have accomplished will become undone. Number two, the only way I can stay true to my word is if I have responsibility and I pull myself up by the bootstraps and I put forth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, using those two things and being a productive member of society. I'm not a wealthy individual. Okay? I'm not the smartest person in the world. I've never claimed to be, and nor will I ever claim to be. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. However, I do know where to find the knife sharpener at.
Mm-hmm.
That's called knowledge. And knowledge is power. See, Donald Trump wants to talk about he has all this knowledge. He knows this, he knows that, so on and so forth. These individuals that are the leeches of society, they have knowledge too. They have knowledge of how to continue to be leeches on society. Because they have knowledge of how to manipulate the people around them and the system to play the victim card. Well, guess what? It's the same knowledge shared by both groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's the victimization. Donald Trump wants, it's unfair. I don't like those questions. They're unfair. People are being unfair to me. Shut up. Stop whining. Roll a set. Take that stupid mop off your damn head. Shove it where the sun don't shine and get the hell out of the race because you have no business being president, period. Because you're too much of a whiner. If you can't handle unfair questions from somebody who you used to like, but now you don't like because you think she's stupid, i.e. Megyn Kelly, how the hell are you going to handle a threat from another country that says, you know what, I think we're going to invade the United States today, and Donald Trump's not going to be able to do anything.
Right.
And then they act on it.
Right. And then we see that Wisconsin's Charlie Sykes speaks out again. Remember, we mentioned before that Trumply Whiplash had been on the Charlie Sykes program in Wisconsin last week. It didn't go well for the New York Vulgarian. Sean Hannity and Eric Bolding give Trump kid glove questions, but not the radio hosts in Wisconsin. Now, interestingly, Bowling has kicked Michelle Fields, who was a regular guest, off of his stupid cash-in show on the weekends. Guess what, folks? Twitter is alive with this stuff. He's losing viewers left and right. I always thought he was a putz anyway. If you're going to be on national television, you freak, wear a tie. Anyway, according to Red State, Sykes appeared on an NPR interview with Steve Inskeep. During the course of the program, Sykes said that there is no substance with Trump. More damning still is that Sykes went so far as to say that Trumply Whiplash is a fraud when he claims to be a conservative. Hell, we'll take that a step further. Trump is a fraud when he opens that uncontrollable mouth of his. He's made a mockery of this entire election process, and I'm sick and tired of it. I'm tired of him polluting the minds of friends and families throughout this country. Americans deserve and demand better than this, as we've reiterated since the airing of our first show back on September 11th of 2015. The solution to America's problems has been with us since the founding of our nation. The Constitution is the key. Nothing else. The Constitution. That hasn't changed, nor is it going to change. It's just the fact.
And the only way that the Constitution is going to become irrelevant is if, by the same cruel, twisted, evil fate that Trump may be elected, would be for the American people to not embrace it. To just say, yep, no, it's an antiquated document. We don't need it anymore. We don't want to follow the Constitution. We don't want it anymore. When the American people forfeit that document, when they forfeit the embracing of that document, when they forfeit the working knowledge and understanding of that document, that is the only time that that document will ever become irrelevant. Because that document doesn't belong to the government. It doesn't belong to the states. It doesn't belong to somebody sitting in an Oval Office or people occupying leather chairs in the halls of the Senate or Congress. That document belongs to we the people. And if we we the people collectively as a whole abandon that document, that is when it becomes irrelevant. And I'm going to say this right now, like I've said many times before, as long as I'm drawing a breath, as long as I'm capable of opening my eyes every morning, God willing, and there's air in my lungs, and I am capable of speaking or communicating in any way, shape, or form, even if it's but reduced down to me just tapping and knocking on a piece of wood, that document will be relevant, because as long as I'm alive, it will never cease to be irrelevant. It will never cease to exist, and that is why America has never ceased to be great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why we don't need to make America great again. You can't make something great again that has never stopped being great.
Yeah.
What we need to do is we need to make America smart again.
And we're working on that.
And when I say make America,
and we're truly working on that.
I'm not saying that America, the voting people, are stupid or ignorant or not smart in any way.
No, it's just that they've come under a relentless attack by Trump, who's been, as I've described him before, the Pied Piper of disillusioned conservatives. He's peddling out this web of deceit, this fraudulent style of campaigning that does not do anybody in this country any service. And we can see just how divisive it is, because apparently there's some trouble for conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh. Folks, this next story comes straight out of the Blaze. Back on March 31st, Oliver Darcy put out a piece about callers rebelling against Rush over Trump. The chief complaint of the callers is that Rush hasn't given Trump adequate scrutiny. Now, folks, to be fair, Limbaugh does claim that he hasn't endorsed a candidate. He has said some very nice things about Cruz, and there's no question that his brother, David Limbaugh, is an ardent Cruz supporter. That said, Rush has been soft on Trump. Perhaps this is because there is a close personal friendship between the two men. I don't want to cast aspersions, but I understand the sentiment of the callers. That's why we're the new resistance here on the Wright Flyer. We'll keep hitting Trump hard, and unless and until he actually comes out with concrete evidence that he is a conservative and that he is contrite about the things that he has said and that he is ready to recompense the extremely progressive views that he's held for the vast majority of his adult life, then we're going to keep hitting him. But if he does come out and is truly repentant, then yes, that's going to change our outlook, because we always give credit where credit's due. But that chance of that ever happening, we've even invited him to come on our little program, little like his hands, to have a forum to do exactly that. We know that he won't. Now, apparently, these calls into Rush's program came after the host had defended a Trump gaffe on abortion, the one that we were just talking about. This, again, is where Trump endorsed legal punishment for women who sought to have an abortion, and allegedly should the procedure hypothetically be outlawed. A caller identified as Jean from Philadelphia told the host that instead of stimulating intelligence, that the longtime radio host was insulting his intelligence. I think Jean stumbled onto the crux of the problem with Trump. The candidacy of this man insults all of our intelligence. It insults the collective intelligence of this great representative republic of ours.
And that's the name of that particular proverbial wedge we spoke of before. And that wedge is designed to do nothing more than every time it's hammered in, it's another insult on our intelligence as the American sovereign. It's an insult on our principles. It's an insult on our belief system, our morals, our ethics, and our core fiber of existence as American citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to say this regarding giving individuals credit where credit is due. We will do that across the board. It doesn't matter what political bet anybody has. Hell, even if Trump comes out and actually says something that's creditworthy, we'll give him credit and we'll acknowledge it.
In fact, we did that in one of the early debates, but that was a long time ago, and that was one of the rare times he said something credible.
It was actually on citizenship issue pertaining to the states with the 14th Amendment. And I think that's actually the only time he even talks about anything with the Constitution. And it wasn't on his own initiative. It was because somebody posed the question to him.
Right, right.
Prior to when he said that, so he had time to kind of get his little, vaguely, smartly, intelligently people together in order to formulate some kind of smartly type, thing to say.
Right.
Which was actually right.
Right.
But on the flip side of all of that, we are not going to hold back on holding other people accountable, regardless who it is.
Right.
I don't care if it's Rush Limbaugh. I don't care if it's Mark Levin. I don't care who it is. If anybody, even if Randy or our first year Marshall Nelson or any of our other guests are misspoken or if they're wrong on something and the facts are wrong, which is going to be kind of hard with Randy and Nelson. But it could happen. In fact, there are a couple of little small guffaws that happen, but no big deal. We're going to hold them accountable. We will always give credit where credit is due, but we're also going to have that equal standard of applying accountability across the board. I don't care who it is.
Right. And now, getting back to the Rush Limbaugh incident, I've actually got a clip, a soundbite, and I'm going to cue it up right now, just so that we get a taste of what was happening, and then I'm going to try and break down what was happening. I'm going to cue that up right now.
Mike in Columbia, South Carolina. Welcome, sir. Great to have you.
Hey, Rush. I've been listening to you for a long time, and you've always said you would just be objective, not endorse candidates, not take sides. Well, this latest Trump comment on abortion, to me, is just the latest thing that shows he's just out of his league here. He's not ready for this. Look back. He didn't even know what the nuclear triad was. He thinks Japan and South Korea and Saudi Arabia need to all nuke up and take care of it themselves. I mean, to me, it's just, it's very simple. I mean, the fact that he had to retract it so fast, I mean, like you said, and I agree with you with the Chris Matthews and the Gotcha and the George Stephanopoulos, and I get that. But, Rush, come on, being objective here, I look to you as a source of common sense, and it just seems to me Rush, you practically spent the last hour and a half just trying to explain this thing and slice it and dice it 87 ways to Sunday. I don't care who he hangs out with. I don't care if he's not political. I mean, it's almost, and Rush, I love your show.
Wait a second.
Just recently, it's almost like you're going so far out of your way and almost doing backflips and cartwheels to defend Trump. It's just, it's a turnoff at this point.
I'm not defending Trump.
Now, you see, folks, he there tried to say that he's not defending Trump. Well, it's just the way that he has been speaking of Trump. It comes across that way. And again, he's mentioned that he's had this close personal friendship with Trump for a long time, and maybe that's coloring his judgment on it. But you could hear in the caller's voice that he was upset. I mean, Rush was in full-on defense mode here. I know, folks, it's hard to be objective. We're all human. And in elections like this, it's all but impossible to be so. I don't think that it's always fair to the audience to claim that you aren't going to endorse a candidate. they're tuning into this program to see what you think or to hear what you think. And part of that requires a bond of trust. But how do you build and maintain that bond? I think you have to be honest about who you support and then tell the audience to double check what you say so that they can draw their own conclusions. That's the way we do it, and that's why we used to do things in the country the way that we did, where it was this objective approach. We used to be self-responsible. Something happened over the years where that character and spirit has seemingly faded. To my mind, that's a tragedy. It speaks volumes about why the country is currently in the shape that it is right now. Folks, listening again to that caller's tone, you can hear the sense of frustration. God, don't we all know that feeling all too well? It's like the supposed voices of reason have all plunged into the Kool-Aid and are lining up Whiplash's latest scheme, and it's basically that they want to just do whatever he says. It'd be funny if the circumstances and consequences weren't so damn dire.
Well, it's like you said, Randy, for individuals or shows to not come right out and endorse, I can understand having reservations about that. I can understand, it's, for lack of a better terms of, not wanting to damage their ratings, because it is a business for them. So they're going to do whatever they can to maintain the status quo as far as their bottom dollar and not damage it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, again, it's like you mentioned with individuals like us, and I go right back to how I was raised. See, we were one of the first media sources to endorse Ted Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand behind that endorsement all the way full tilt. If he's not elected president, or doesn't get the nomination and is not elected president, I still stand behind that endorsement. Why? Because I gave my word. I gave my word to myself that I'm not going to be able to support somebody like Trump or anybody else. Because if not endorsing Cruz, even if he leaves the race for any reason whatsoever and does not become the nominee, it doesn't mean that I'm going to throw my support behind Trump. No, why? Because Trump doesn't represent my principles. Ted Cruz does. That's why I have endorsed him. Now, to take that endorsement, if Ted Cruz doesn't make it, to throw that behind someone like Donald Trump, again, I would be abandoning my principles. I would be giving into that lesser of two evils thing. I'm not going to do that. I refuse to do that. I did that once before, twice before, with George W. Bush and with John McCain. And I learned my lesson. I woke up. I realized, we cannot just simply cast a vote for an individual or support an individual just for the sake of them possibly toppling the opposition, we think is far more worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. That is not what this country is built on. It is built on principles, and we have to adhere to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to withdraw my endorsement of Ted Cruz at all.
No.
Any way, shape, or form. Am I going to, if he comes out of the race, support whoever the candidate or the nominee may be? No, absolutely not. Because they don't reflect me. They don't reflect my principles. And again, this is the accountability and self-responsibility you were talking about, that what formulated and created our country, our republic.
Right.
And people don't think like that anymore. So, to the other individuals in the media, That's fine. I understand if you don't want to give a public endorsement of any particular candidate. I understand why. But at the same time, like Randy said, you're kind of depriving your listening base of what your true reactions and what your true input really is.
In fact, Rush even went out there and said that he would muzzle himself on some of the Trump issues because he was being misunderstood. The problem is, I don't think that it was Rush being misunderstood. I think that he was trying to walk such a tightrope, to walk on eggshells around this whole issue because he didn't want to offend the close personal friend and golfing buddy that he has in Trumply Whiplash, that he himself got Trumply Whiplash in his neck. It's understandable, but his job is to provide analysis of the current happenings and circumstances that are affecting the polity of America. And if you're not able to do that in a straight and objective fashion, your listeners are going to see right through it. They're going to see through the veneer. They're going to see the truth for what it is, and you are going to suffer the consequences for it. And I think that's exactly why Rush was having the problem, or this perceived rebellion on the part of his callers, because it is a bit insulting the way that he went about it and trying to provide these nonsensical defenses that he's never provided to any other candidate before. Never, at least in the history that I've listened to him. And that goes back to being a little kid riding around in my dad's car in the 1990s listening to him.
Yeah, and in a way, it's disingenuous to a certain degree. In fact, I would say that it's actually borderline or just stepping ever so slightly over that line of being politically correct.
Yeah.
See, folks, if you haven't realized by now, we're not politically correct. We've declared war on political correctness and every facet thereof, even if it means holding individuals accountable, pointing out, well, you're not doing this because you don't want to disrupt the boat. You don't want to rock the boat with this. Guess what? I like being in boats. I have no problem being in a boat. And I'm perfectly capable of handling myself and comfortable if that boat should say, oh, I don't know, capsize, which is what I have every intention of doing when it comes to this gelatinous, bigoted, septic nuisance of a yacht called political correctness. I want to sink that ship so bad, and it's one of my life agendas and goals to sink that ship. It has rotted this country from the inside out, and it is doing nothing but sitting there festering over and over, and quite frankly, I'm tired of it. I want it gone. And it's going to happen. If it kills me, I will end political correctness, or at least have a major part in having a hand in ending it.
And that's why we call ourselves the New Resistance here, folks, because we are dedicated to empowering you and to providing you with the knowledge to foster a fluent and working knowledge and understanding of our shared Constitution. In so doing, we empower you to stand up to those nefarious forces that would gather against you and attempt to deprive you of your fundamental and unalienable rights, which were endowed to you by your Creator. Again, we want you to evaluate what we say and then go and research it on your own to see whether that is what lines up with your own point of view, and then you can make your own decision. Think of how empowering that really is. And again, folks, that's what we're here for. We are here to empower you. Now, with that said, it is time for us to begin our descent. I'm going to go ahead and send the flight attendant back for one last round of alcohol. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm your captain, Randy Wright, and I've been joined by my first officer, Jeremy Grapenton, and we both would like to personally take this opportunity to thank you for choosing to fly the Wright Flyer. We invite you to leave any questions, comments, or concerns either here at our YouTube page or our Facebook page or our Google Plus page. And we also invite you to follow us on Twitter with the Twitter handle of @RadioAviationX. Folks, that's all one word, @RadioAviationEX, @RadioAviationEX. One more time, @RadioAviationEX. And there you will find the departure board, which lists both Jeremy's personal account, my personal account, and our Cafe Press account, where we have a lot of trinkets and goodies for sale that includes shot glasses with our logo on it so you can drink that fantastic alcohol that the flight attendant brings back to you, shirts, hats, bags, pins, you name it, it's there. You just take a look and go ahead and give us a little bit of support so we can keep empowering you as we always have been and keep this mission alive. Thank you again, folks. We will see you next time. Do take care.